Hello and welcome, race fans, to race number 2 of round 1 of the iRacing Fantasy National Series playoffs. Right here, live on V-Speed. Tonight's race is going to be at the Charlotte ROVAL, 96 miles. It's going to be 42 laps here tonight around the tricky ROVAL located at the Charlotte Motor Speedway with the new chicane. So we'll have to see how these drivers do out here with this new challenge. This road course here being so tough, but should be a good race here tonight. We're going to give you a quick preview of the action that you're going to see on track here, sponsored by Rapid Fired Pizza, and we'll be right back with the qualifying action.
Everybody ready, set, go. Rev it up and let's roll. There's a party in the fast lane. Got my hands on the wheel and I'm flying. Heartbeat loud as the thunder rolls. Riding in on the stampede of lightning. I'm bringing back the sunshine. Bringing back the sunshine. Baby, it's about time. Bring it back.
And we are here at the track now, the Charlotte ROVAL. Drivers going out to make their qualifying runs here, but we want to get you updated on the points situation coming into tonight's race. This is the second race of the first round of the playoffs. Last week at Richmond was a chaotic event, and a lot of drivers didn't fare very well. So let's see where they're standing as they come into tonight's race. Looking at the top 12 in the playoff grid, Chris James comes in, your points leader. He's got a 40-point margin to that cutoff line, and if he finishes solidly here tonight, he will be pretty safe. And he was fastest in practice, so off to a good start already. So we'll have to see if Chris James is able to continue his speed here tonight. Carl Dodson comes in second, but he is out on track right now, so we'll have to see how he does. I didn't see where he placed in the practice standings, but comes in second here. Also, pretty good margin to the cut line. Chad Ginningsman right there behind them in third. It's Greg Klein fourth, Jay Queen fifth, Roger Gregory sixth, and then it gets close here. Tater Bowman 7 points above the cut line in that seventh position in points. Evan Longacre is the last one, currently inside the top 8. He's only 3 points in, though. 3 points ahead of Rick Webb. First one out. Dakota Jorgensen as well is out. Grayson Sullivan and Cole Early, who did not start last week, he is back there in that 12th and final spot. So it's going to be interesting to see who separates themselves from the pack here, as looks like we've got some drivers just coming around now to make their hot lap. We'll have to see how they fare in the qualifying session, as we're going to give you a quick run around the track, though, with some of these drivers. Let's take a look at maybe somebody who's just now coming out on track. Looks like Jeffrey Meyer. We're going to go to the chopper cam here and follow him along so you can get an understanding of how we go around the ROVAL here. You go into that first left-hander, kind of a sweeping downhill. Then there's a nice right-hander here. And then another right-hander. Actually go behind Mr. Myers, he takes another right-hander up a slight incline to another right-hander. You got to sweep out to the left here, stick tight to those strips. You swing out to the right here, and then you're going to proceed on to the banking in the NASCAR turns 1 and 2. And then go as fast as you can to the back straightaway. And then you approach the new chicane, which is much deeper to the left than the old chicane, and you have to slow down quite a bit more, but the exit is much more forgiving, much wider. As Jeffrey Meyer coming now through turns 3 and 4 up to the final chicane, which cuts through the infield on the front straightaway. And then you take a right-hander, a left-hander to the start-finish line, and that will complete a lap here at the ROVAL. Jeffrey Meyer getting his time in a 1:23 flat. That puts him 7th on the boards, as currently Chris James up there with a 1:19.7, which was faster than we saw out of anyone on track here in practice or qualifying. Dakota Jorgensen, that number 9 machine, comes in outside of the top 8. He puts down a good lap here to put himself 2nd on the grid in that Flash National Guard machine. Barry Stevens here looking for an improvement or just a little more practice, but it looks like he's actually going to pull it down pit road. Chad Ginnigsman on his flying lap right now, approaching that backstretch chicane. Very conservative in the approach as he swings out wide now to the left. Little bit loose there, cutting across the apron now. And number 16 machine, the Vice Grip Ford Mustang. Ginnigsman won his way into the playoffs with a win at Las Vegas in the final race before the playoffs. He made it in with a victory as he puts himself 9th on the boards here on his hot lap. As now we've got Jacob Shorba, who puts down a 1:21.43, so good job by Jacob there as he jumps to 3rd on the grid just at the tail end of qualifying there. And we're going to go to our starting grid here tonight. Let's get a look at these guys as they're starting to get up here on the starting grid. And we want to thank you once again for coming out here tonight to the Rapid Fired Pizza ROVAL 96, the 2nd race of the iRacing Fantasy National Series. The starting grid for tonight's race: Chris James, your points leader coming into the event here, nearly locked into round number 2. He is going to start on the pole and setting himself apart already by his starting position. So congratulations to Chris James with the pole. Dakota Jorgensen, another playoff contender, going to be starting in 2nd here tonight. Jacob Shorba, also one of our fast drivers out here, one of the Cup drivers who's in the playoffs. He's going to roll off 3rd. Grayson Sullivan going to be starting in that 4th position. And Grayson looking for a good run here as he comes in right now 11th in the playoff standings. Cole Hooper going to be starting in 5th here. Barry Stevens in 6th, as well as Stephen Parks in the 7th position. Jake Silva in the 8th position. Jeffrey Meyer going to be rolling off 9th. And Chad Ginnigsman, another playoff contender, rolling off in the top 10 position. Tyler White rolling off in 11th here. Aaron Tyner going to be starting in 12th. Carl Dodson, last of the drivers to qualify. Looks like he just kind of put a time down. He's going to be rolling off in 13th here tonight. Nathan Zittel, first of the drivers to not take a time, going to roll off 14th here. Dalton Williamson starting in 15th. Luis Lopez going to roll off 16th. Richard Clement 17th. Cody Jordan starting 18th. Joshua Schofield starting in 19th. And Tab Hebert going to be rolling off in 20th here tonight. Charles Hager going to start 21st. To his outside, it's going to be Rick Webb, who is one of our playoff drivers, in 22nd. Jarrett Small rolling off 23rd, and Brandon Andrews is going to be starting in 24th position here tonight. Evan Longacre, who comes in as a playoff driver as well, he's going to be starting in 25th position. Alan Hunt going to be rolling off in 26th. James Dowen starting in 27th position here tonight. Jake Queen going to be rolling off in 28th position. Austin Gacchione going to be rolling off 29th. Hilton Young 30th. And Zach York rounds out the field here, a 31 in tonight's race. As the field making their way around here. At the front of the pack, it's Chris James who's going to be the one to get them going when they get back around to the start-finish line. So as these guys get ready to get going, let's take a look at tonight's weather on track. Holy moly, 123 degrees for the racing surface here tonight, 90-degree air temp. So it's a hot one here in Charlotte, and that is going to affect the grip level of these race cars. We saw in practice there was quite a bit of fall off after the first couple laps, and eventually these guys were running 6 or 7 seconds slower than their starting tire laps that they would put down. So it'll be interesting to see how these drivers hang on to their cars throughout the race. And we are going to have 3 stages tonight. Stages are going to be at lap 10, lap 24, and then the end of the race at lap 42. We've already got some cheers in the chat, cheering on Chris James, and we've got one cheer for Cole Hooper back there in the number 14 machine in the 5th position. So good starting positions by both of them. But if you haven't already, cheer for your favorite driver in the chat, and we'll try and keep an eye on them throughout the race here tonight. Comment who you think is going to win as well, and we'll see if your prediction comes true as the field making their way through the backstretch chicane. This will be that number 20 machine of Chris James. He's going to take the green flag here in just a few moments. The pace car rolling through turns 3 now, 3 and 4. Got Daniel Hallis cheering for Chris James and Carl Dodson saying they're going to finish 1-2. That's how they come in points as well. And that Porsche pace car about to roll off onto pit road, making its way down now. This field's getting ready to start race number 2 of the playoffs. The number 20 of Chris James, a big start here early on the throttle, but we are underway for race 2, the Rapid Fired Pizza ROVAL 96. And the number 20 of Chris James already well out in front. Let's take a look a little farther back. The field still filing in through turn number 1. But looks like everybody doing a good job so far. I don't see anyone losing it at the moment. We're going to bring up our ticker here so you can follow along with your favorite driver. But out front, it's Chris James on lap number 1. Swinging around now onto the NASCAR oval. He's got about a second lead over Dakota Jorgensen as they make their way onto the back straightaway. This is a track that I have not run very much. I ran the old configuration, but I have not run the new one as the field approaching the first chicane. We've got a big gap after Jake Silva, or before Jake Silva and Jeffrey Meyer. As the field making their way through the chicane, the 2 of Dalton Williamson swings a bit wide there. And we still got cars filing out of there. It looks like a little damage to Cody Jordan, that number 35 machine, already on lap number 1, but he's putting pressure on Luis Lopez in that number 33 machine as they approach that final chicane. Back to the start-finish line, the 35 a bit wide. Gonna lose a bit of time there, and he's under pressure now from Tab Hebert. They go down back into turn number 1. Out front, Chris James has continued to gap Jorgensen, who's being reeled in by Cole Hooper and Grayson Sullivan. Chris James just on a rail right now. 2 laps into the race. Cole Hooper a little bit wide on the exit there. He's under pressure from Grayson Sullivan just behind him. Coming out of the NASCAR turn 2. Down the back straightaway, the 14 under braking, 19 closes about a car length puts him under pressure coming out of this chicane. The 19, a little bit of a wiggle there. So we got more drivers. The 93, a little tail happy under braking. Chad Ginningsman now inside the top 10. Actually, right where he started, but 15 seconds back from the leader. And this field is spread out already. And one of the closest battles looking like Cody Jordan and Nathan Zittel. This is just outside the top 10, 13th and 14th. Also Luis Lopez not far in front of them. The 33 with a bit of tail damage in that fast and all Camaro. Got a little bit of a bumper from somebody else at some point in the early stages. Here's the 93 goes around. That's Tyler White as he continues to fall. Pulls out in front of the 51 of Jarrett Small. Let's see if we can check out what happened to Tyler White. There's no full course cautions except for the stages here. He just gets a little bit loose and slams into that wall. Can't hang on to the car and just waited there until he got a nice gap and swinging around behind Evan Longacre. But the 51, who was on his way out of that corner, had to slow that thing down. Meanwhile, out in front, Chris James leading by over 5 seconds already. And Jorgensen still back here in second. He is just in front of Cole Hooper. I think maybe a little issue for the 9. He was farther ahead, but that gap just closed up significantly. And now it's a 3-car battle here for second, including Grayson Sullivan. As they make their way down through the corners here. Under this short straightaway, the 14 a bit wide and gets in the grass a little bit. Able to keep that thing going and still remain the same distance behind Jorgensen. Jeffrey Meyer now under pressure. Oh, contact between him and the 23. 23 goes around to the outside wall, but this is going to block the track, at least the racing groove. Oh, and the 23 pulls out into the 33 of Luis Lopez. Heavy contact. And let's just take a look here from the nose of Luis Lopez. Can't really see a whole lot when you come through this corner. All of a sudden that track is blocked. He goes to the outside where there's room, and the 23 just started moving before he probably should have. And Jake Sylvia gonna be in trouble here. So the 8 really just checked up quite a bit, and that involved the 23, the 2 of Dalton Williamson. I'm sorry, he got involved in that one as well. A bit of front end damage, but we're already halfway through stage number 1, and already a couple drivers in trouble here. Is now Grayson Sullivan up into 3rd position, taking that from Cole Hooper, that number 14 machine. Starting to drop back as we saw him struggling with the handling there a couple laps ago, coming out of this set of corners. It looks like Jake Queen in trouble, the number 6 machine. He had quite a bit of nose damage. Oh, there was another incident with the number 8. Jeffrey Meyer. So the 33, the 8 just checks up. The 91 runs into him. Jake Queen, nowhere to go really. He just slams into the back. And I think his engine actually expired here on the back straightaway. But Jake Queen, who came in 6th in the, or 5th in the points, loses an engine here going on the back straightaway and takes it to pit road and behind the wall. Chris James continuing to lead here. He's looking for a stage win here at the ROVAL, just putting on a clinic, up almost 9 seconds over 2nd place Jorgensen, who's now under pressure from Grayson Sullivan. The 19 really charging that chicane right to the back bumper of the 9. And Sullivan looking for points here. He needs them after he comes in 11th from last week's performance at the Richmond Raceway. Barry Stevens kind of running a race all on his own here, back in that 5th position. And doing a good job. Car looks clean still. Everybody continuing on their way. Looks like Jarrett Small back here in 14th. I thought I saw him have an issue, but It's all good for now as he's putting pressure on the 00 of Alan Hunt, a name we haven't seen out here very often. And there's definitely some fill-in drivers tonight, as a lot of drivers do not consider road courses their strong suit. 60 of Aaron Tyner, big wiggle there coming out of that last corner. Down into turn 1, he rides in 18th position. You see the 04 of Austin Gaccione, a little bit of a wiggle there. That car looks like it is pushing pretty bad. And then a little bit loose on throttle, I think, as he rides in that 16th position. And quite a few cars on pit road getting service. But one who does not need it, that number 20 machine of Chris James, just a few laps away from stage win number 1, currently 10.5 seconds up over Dakota Jorgensen. In this race between the 19 and 9 has started to evaporate, as these 3 drivers now pretty evenly split up, around a second between them each. And maybe an issue a little farther back. Charles Hager, the number 10 machine, under pressure from Jarrett Small. 51 goes to the high line, trying to get a run, going down into the final chicane here. See if he can make a move or charge this one. The 51 really dives it in there, gets to the inside, but looks like he's gonna blow the corner. Oh, over the rumble strips. The 10, nowhere to go, as the 51 really just sailed it in there and was never gonna make it at that rate. But that is gonna give Hager the position back, as now he's battling with Aaron Tyner, the 60 machine, who goes around the outside, but still side by side. The 60, a little wiggle. Oh, he tags that wall just a touch. Some of these drivers really struggling here tonight. But the 60 makes his way past, and the 51 now going right on by the 10 after making contact with him a bit earlier. As now we are on 3 to go to the end of the stage, so the end of lap 10. And Chris James out in front by 11.8 seconds, consistently running 1 to 2 seconds a lap faster than the drivers behind him. Jorgensen still a second ahead of Sullivan. Trying to find any other battles we can. The number 1 of Tab Hebert putting pressure on Cody Jordan, the one right there. He's got no rear bumper on that thing, but swings it out wide to get a nice tight exit. A little bit too much up on the curb there, as he heads down into turn number 1. Already up 10 positions from where he started in this Fury number 1. As they make their way through the intersection of the track here. Tab Hebert all over the back bumper of Cody Jordan. To the right-hand uphill section here. Hebert now to the outside. The 35 of Jordan backing out of it. This side-by-side battle as they race almost. Oh, the 1 tags that wall. But heading back onto the NASCAR oval, it looks like Hebert going to take that. And here comes Evan Longacre. Another playoff driver moving into the top 10 now with that pass on Cody Jordan. As now Chris James 12 seconds ahead. He's already to the infield section, and he's going to get the white flag for the end of the stage here on the next lap. So Chris James really dominating so far here, leading every lap, 12 seconds ahead of second place. But Grayson Sullivan trying to take over that position. He has started to close once again on Jorgensen. We'll see if he can get there in the next 2 laps, but still about a second between them. Longacre trying to get more as he's closing in on Tab Hebert. Cody Jordan still hanging around there just outside the top 10. But Longacre really good in those first couple corners. There's the 35, big wiggle on the downhill section. The 48 now to the right-hander. Closing in even more. Tab Hebert starting to struggle, and maybe not quite the rear downforce that he'd like with that damage. So Longacre there in the rapid-fired Pizza 48. You can just see how they approach these corners differently here, as the 48, a big run down low. He's going to close in like 2 or 3 car lengths in that set of corners alone. already on lap 10. Chris James, oh, the 48 of Longacre, big dive bomb move, takes that position away, and that's going to move him up to 9th as we see Chad Ginningsman maybe overshooting the ROVAL there. Let's jump back here. He did overshoot the chicane. Locked it way up and just did not make that corner. He's going to take a penalty for that. It sends him all the way outside the top 10, now into 11th on the final lap of the stage, and valuable stage points up for grabs. Chris James now coming through turn 2 of the NASCAR circuit. We see another car sitting on track up there who blew the chicane. Not sure. Looks like the 33 of Luis Lopez. It's Chris James going for the stage win. Coming out of NASCAR turn 4 down into this front straightaway chicane. He's going to be easy on the brakes. 13.5 seconds ahead. No need to push it right here. And he will capture the stage win and lay off as the rest of the top 10 making their way up to the start-finish line. Dakota Jorgensen able to hang on for second. He's 3 full seconds ahead. Grayson Sullivan and Cole Hooper was starting to close back in, but he will take that 4th spot. Barry Stevens now coming across the line for 5th. Dalton Williamson is going to take 6th in the stage. Stephen Parks coming out of oval turn 4. So he drives right around the 13 of Hilton Young. Oh, and Parks blowing that last chicane. Gonna have to take it easy, but he gets the 7th position. Evan Longacre was starting to close. He's gonna take 8th. Tab Heber in 9th, and Cody Jordan rounding out the top 10 in stage number 1. So each of those drivers capturing stage points. Many of them playoff drivers here tonight. Gonna capture those playoff points, but Chris James gets another playoff point and also the stage points. And he will continue to extend his points lead. Dominating performance in stage 1 as they make their way back around to catch the pace car. We're going to cut quickly to a commercial break, and we'll be right back with the pit cycle and the green flag. And we're back here. Pit cycle starting to happen. Chris James brings the field onto pit road. We'll see if anybody decides to stay out, which I don't think would be a great decision with 10 laps on the tires. But everybody making it into their pit stall here, and exit of pit road is pretty interesting at this track. And the old configuration of the ROVAL, they would actually just pull straight back out onto the track. There wasn't any pit exit. But now you can actually pull out. There is a pit lane that will exit through turn 2, and we see the top drivers now just pulling out. And basically, as they came in, they are going to leave. And Chris James will maintain his lead here and catch back up to the pace car. We'll see if any of these drivers elect to take a wave around. Hilton Young is in the pits. Luis Lopez in the pits as well. Joshua Schofield. So all the drivers that are laps down are back here. Looks like Jeffrey Meyer possibly getting the lucky dog, as he is in that 22nd position. We watched him during qualifying, where he qualified 9th, but not great luck here in the first quarter of this race. Let's see if he can recover here and get back up inside the top 10, where I think he has speed to run. Meanwhile, at the front, I can't tell if the pace car lights are off. It looks like they are, in which case we're going to be going green this next time by. This field makes their way out of the turn 2 oval section. And must be single file restarts here tonight, just to eliminate the chaos of coming out of that last chicane to the start finish line. And we want to give a big shout out to Rapid Fire Pizza. You saw the commercial during the break there. We're going to put their information. I'm sorry, that was the wrong button there. We're going to put their information in the chat. You can go check them out. And they have some deals going on. I believe it's 50% off your order over $20 or more, as we are now approaching the green flag once again. Chris James going into this last chicane, gets on the throttle. Back to the left-hander there and across the start finish line. We are back underway at the ROVAL for stage number 2. We'll see if anybody has anything to challenge that number 20 machine, who just pulled away, and nobody else even close during stage number 1, as he already starts to gap Jorgensen almost up to a second the lead. As at the tail end of the top 10, Stephen Parks here in the number 47 machine. As we see the 60 of Tyner, big wiggle out of the corner, and here comes Parks now to the inside, not close enough to make the move. And that's going to actually slow up Parks, as he was off of the racing groove there. And coming back up onto the NASCAR oval. Got a battle forming back here between Dalton Williamson and Nathan Zittel. The 86 and the 2 side by side now through NASCAR oval turn 2. And down into the backstretch chicane. The 86 backs out of it, giving the position to the 2 of Williamson, who sets his sights on the 33 of Luis Lopez, who's actually multiple laps down, 4 laps down, and kind of in the way here for the number 2. But looks like he'll just hand that position over. Nathan Zittel now losing a spot to Tab Hebert through that sequence, as well as they head into the final chicane here. Chad Ginnigsman, not sure what happened to him, but he was up just outside the top 10 towards the end of stage number 1, and he did overshoot the chicane, but right now scored in 16th position. I expected to see him run a little bit better, as Luis Lopez, a big issue there in turn 2. Zach York right here behind these 00 of Alan Hunt, who's racing with no front end on that race car. Currently in 20th position. Oh, as he goes around just in front of York. Here comes James Dowen now. The 00 backing up, almost gets into him, but plenty of room. The 00 now getting back underway, and Hilton Young having to try and avoid. He gets into him. The 00 couldn't get it fired back the right way, and just struggling with putting that throttle down. He's still struggling with it. Needs to be easy on the throttle here. So the 00 in big trouble. Now last driver on the lead lap is Chris James, already 4 seconds ahead, and we've got a battle for this second spot once again. Grayson Sullivan putting pressure on Dakota Jorgensen. Down into turn number 1 they go here on lap 16, and the end of the stage is going to be on lap 24 here. So we get about 10 laps of green flag racing per stage was the intention. And the 19th still on the back bumper as they head into the uphill right-hander on the inside of the track here. And Jorgensen feeling the pressure. Let's look out the back bumper of Dakota Jorgensen, looking on to Grayson Sullivan. The 19 now peaking down low. Good run through the corner here. He is all over him as they head down onto the backstretch to the chicane. Will the 19 pull out and make a move? He does not. Trying to pressure the 9 into a mistake here. But Jorgensen pretty good through that section, and he's actually going to stretch out the gap in front of Sullivan, who's now under pressure a bit from Cole Hooper, starting to close in on that battle. We also want to give a shout out to Shorba's iRacing Paints, another sponsor of the series here. So shout out to them. You can check them out on Facebook, where you can get your own custom paint scheme. Just contact Jacob and he can get you hooked up with a professionally made affordable paint scheme for your race car. That's Shorba's iRacing Paints over on Facebook. Head over there and check them out. We'll put the link in the description or in the chat here for you guys. We want to thank KA Pill 89 for the follow here. Thank you for the follow, supporting V-Speed. Really appreciate it. And you were watching the iRacing Fantasy National Series from the ROVAL, race number 2 of playoff round number 1. And Chris James is dominating. He's out to a 7-second lead here in stage 2. Just absolutely pulling away as the battle for second continues to rage. The 19 has to figure something out through this backstretch chicane because he keeps losing ground to Jorgensen. Cole Hooper basically maintaining with these two. He's actually gaining a little bit on them. But those drivers all about a 1.5 seconds off the pace of Chris James at the moment. Now it looks like Stephen Parks has moved up a couple positions here to 8th during this green flag stint. Dalton Williamson now inside the top 10 as he puts the 04 under pressure really hard into that braking zone and sideways coming up to the start finish line. Good racing so far. These guys have just have done a great job. Only a couple decent sized incidents here at a track that most of these drivers are not familiar with. And here goes Williamson down to the inside of Austin Gaccione. That 04 machine losing 2 spots here. Stephen Parks now approaching the back bumper of Cody Jordan. And Jordan goes wide through the corner there. That's going to open up the door for Parks, who moves on up into that 7th position where he was running before the pit cycle. And now the 35 gets a bump from Dalton Williamson. And almost 3 wide there as the 04 now back underneath. The 35 really hurt the 2's run, and that allowed the 10 of Charles Hager to get back in the picture as well. Side by side down into the chicane, the 2 of Williamson overcooking it as he gets in the back bumper of the 04. Got cloud cover here on the track now. Thank you for the follow there. Thank you for following V-Speed and supporting us here tonight and supporting the iRacing Fantasy National Series. These guys put on a great race in race number 2 of playoff round 1. Dalton Williamson looking for a way back around Cody Jordan, who held him up here on the last lap. And now on lap 19, the stage is going to end on lap 24. And this is a pretty good battle back here. We see the one of Tab Hebert starting to close in on everyone as he got very sideways. Went through turn 2 there, and then oh, wow, big wiggle from Charles Hager, that 10 machine. That allows the one of Hebert to close in on the back bumper. Up a little bit farther, Evan Longacre starting to reel in Barry Stevens, and then that would be for a top 5 position. Longacre really would like the points here. He comes in on the cut line. He is currently scored in the playoffs for round 2. But would like as many points as he can possibly get here before the end of tonight's race. And up here, Grayson Sullivan still all over the back bumper of Dakota Jorgensen. The 9 and 19 inseparable throughout this race. But it's been the 9 leading the way between the two of them for the majority of the event. The 19 seems to be better on the first section of the track here. He closes in quite a bit, especially going onto the NASCAR oval, as we see somebody going around right in front of them. I'm not sure who that was. But coming up onto the oval now, Jorgensen, decent sized gap. Looks like he actually stretched it out over Grayson Sullivan. The 19 really good in that set of corners though, and he closes back in just a touch. But that gap now widened up to almost 0.4 of a second as they head down the back straightaway to the chicane. Hard under braking is the 19. A little bit late. Oh, looks like he kind of blew the corner as the 9 now going to pull away by a few more car lengths. Out the back, Cole Hooper. Can see the 19 struggling here as the run goes on. Dalton Williamson able to get by Cody. It looks like Cody Jordan had some issues. He's back in 14th position now, and Carl Dodson, who comes in second in the playoffs, has had a very quiet race here tonight. Started 13th. He's got nose damage. He's currently scored in the 15th position as the 35. Big wiggle coming out of that chicane. That's going to give that spot up to Dodson, I believe. As they get back up to speed, Dodson on the high line. He's going to take that spot away, move up to 14th, and close in on the top 10. But Dodson was in about 20th for a while, but we were looking under caution. As the 93 of Tyler White, big issue there. He's going to have to check up for corner cutting. As he now gets back up to speed, he's going to slide in behind Cody Jordan. Dives into the corner hard, but not able to get there. And here comes the 60 of Aaron Tyner to his outside. So good battling. Carl Dodson now up to 13th. Dalton Williamson with an issue. He went into the corner just really hot and goes out into the barrier there. These soft barriers didn't hurt him too bad, but not going to help his cause here tonight as he drops outside of the top 10 into 11th. That moves the number 10 machine of Charles Hager into 10th position. Meanwhile, at the front, Chris James continuing to lead. He's led every lap so far and has a 14-second gap over Dakota Jorgensen, so even bigger lead than he had in stage 1 and really putting the hammer down here in stage 2. And I don't think anybody's going to have anything to challenge the number 20 unless he makes some mistakes on pit road here tonight. As we'll be approaching the end of the stage here in just a couple more laps. This race just flying by tonight, and big change from last week where we saw quite a few cautions. I believe we hit 17 cautions in the race at Richmond, but bit of a change here is now Austin Gaccione in the 04 moves up in front of Steven Parks. That's a change for 7th and 8th. And Parks running up inside the top 10 throughout this entire event. Good run for him tonight. Look back here at Zach York. One of the drivers in the Cup Series as well. He's currently 18th, up 13 spots from where he started, so doing a good job in that nationwide Camaro, but he does have damage on both ends. It's not stopping him from putting the 60 of Aaron Tyner under pressure as they approach the NASCAR Oval. This 91, oh! Tagging the wall there, got real sideways. Well, we were on the nose cam, and he's gonna lose the nose. Let's actually see here. Oh, wow, big power slide, and yeah, that knocked the nose right off that race car. That's gonna hurt his speed here tonight, as now it's a good run out of the chicane, but back in 18th position, and with that damage, probably not gonna have a chance for a top 10 here, but anything can happen. And one driver I'm still surprised with, Chad Ginnigsman. I expected him to be closer to the top 10, but right back here in 16th position, and currently 54 seconds off your leader. See Hilton Young back here, currently 2 laps down. That number 13 machine was doing well earlier, but he's had some issues here. James Dowen currently 1 lap down in the 39 machine as well. Jay Queen, one of your playoff drivers, I believe the only one to be out of the race so far. He is currently in 27th position. He came into the race in the 5th position in points, just about 16 above the cut line. So it could be interesting here for Jay Queen after tonight's race. I think a couple drivers not showing up, but Chris James is showing up here tonight. He's showing everybody up. He can race this ROVAL better than anybody else out here. He's currently 16 seconds up on the competition. And the battle's still on for second place. It's Jorgensen and Sullivan. This is the last lap of the stage. We'll see if the 19 can finally make the move, but he loses a bit of ground where he's been so strong, getting back onto the NASCAR Oval. Down the back straightaway, you can see that gap now. 3/4 of a second, almost a whole second. But he really dives it in to the chicane here, hard under braking, and he's going to close that gap up. The 9 a little bit wide, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Sullivan to get there, as Chris James, already approaching the start-finish line, will win stage number 2. So I think he has shown he's got the dominant car, and he's going to be the contender for the win here tonight. Dakota Jorgensen going to take second in the stage. Grayson Sullivan third. Cole Hooper in 4th. Evan Longacre, a good run here in stage 2. Move him up to the 5th position in this stage. Barry Stevens just behind him. Austin Gaccione now approaching that final chicane. He's going to take 7th in the stage. Steven Parks going to roll out of here with 8th in the stage. Tav Heber under pressure from Dalton Williamson, but they come across the line 9th and 10th. And caution is out on the track for the end of the stage. So good racing so far. Chris James, dominant. He's led every lap. Looking like he is well on his way to a victory if he can keep things together during this pit cycle. We're going to cut quickly to a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. are back. I'm going to see if we can get a word in with Grayson Sullivan after the pit cycle. He's been all over the back bumper of Jorgensen, but we'll see if he has anything for him here just after they make their way around. So I don't want to distract these guys from their pit stops. It's really going to be the defining moment here in this final stage. It's whether or not they can have a good pit stop here. But while we're pacing under caution, we want to thank you for tuning into this presentation of the iRacing Fantasy National Series right here live on VSpeed. My name is Adam Baker. I'm the commentator here tonight. We are live on Twitch. We post our race replays over on YouTube about a week after they're live here. You can also check us out on Facebook, where we announce each and every race before we broadcast it throughout the week. And you can also check us out on Instagram and Twitter at VSpeedSim, where we also make announcements for special events as well as the races throughout the week. So check us out on those platforms and give us a like or follow over there. We really appreciate it. If you like tonight's action here in the iRacing Fantasy National Series, you can also get your own merch at the VSpeedSim shop. If you go over to vspeedsim.com/shop, you can use the code FANTASY5 and save $5 on your purchase of $10 or more. And a portion of each sale contributes to the league here at the iRacing Fantasy National Series. So if you buy either the hat or the t-shirt, a portion of those sales go directly back into the league here and help fund their activities throughout the season. You can also check out Shorba's iRacing Paints, one of the sponsors here. Give them a like, follow on Facebook, and message Jacob if you're looking for a professionally made, affordable paint scheme. He can get you hooked up. There's the field now making their way onto pit road, coming down pit lane. The whole field going to make their way down. I don't think anybody's going to try and stay out to get either a lap back or anything of that nature. Looks like the leaders now making their way into their boxes. We'll see if anyone makes any kind of mistake here. It does not look like anybody slid through the boxes, so good job by everybody. And they make their way off. Chris James going to win the battle. Looks like Dakota Jorgensen and Grayson Sullivan going to come out third there. Let's see if we can get a word in with Mr. Sullivan. That number 19 machine. Grayson Sullivan, this is Adam in the VSpeed booth. You have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, Grayson, you've been running third pretty much this entire race, but we see you got some speed in the race car, and you've been challenging that number 9 machine. You think you can get him here in stage number 3?
I hope so, man. I think the car has the pace to do it. I think he and me and really all of us up at the front, we've been really conservative so far. This is a really challenging track, and trying to keep everything in one piece. But for this last stage, I think we're going to have a little bit more competition up front. I'm really glad with how the car is feeling, so we got a shot, yeah.
Yeah, and you came in here a little bit outside the playoff picture, but you've earned some great stage points so far. So we'll be interested to see if you can close this thing out with some solid points and get the run that you might like. But what's the most challenging part here tonight that you've been struggling with, or you know, finding the most difficult?
The most difficult thing is probably finding the balance of how to manage the tires, not just over the run, but also as you near other cars, because it's really tempting to send it in when you're next to somebody or when you're close to somebody and you want to brake really late, but the grip's just not there, and the car will just die over the long run. But up front, we've been pretty even. Chris is just running away, obviously. He's having a great night, but yeah, I guess just trying to keep everything in balance. It is a road course, so all these things.
Yeah, race the track and not the competitors, as they say. Yep. But good luck here in the rest of the race. Looks like you're going to be going green, so we'll keep an eye on you.
Yep, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. That was third place driver right now, Grayson Sullivan. So we need to move him back down into the room with his teammates there. So we're going to be getting the green flag this time. Looks like Chris James on the throttle once again at the start of that chicane. Looks like the 9 of Jorgensen, a better restart than last time, but still the 20 going to gap him by about a half second to 3/4 of a second going into turn 1. It's now Grayson Sullivan under pressure from Cole Hooper, and really second through fourth have been very even throughout this event and haven't changed hands since the first stage. As we see Evan Longacre now to the outside, that allows Austin Getchione to slip on by into that 7th position. Carl Dodson making his way forward too. He's going by the inside of Nathan Zittel, or trying to, as they head down into the corner. The 86 on the outside, Dodson on the inside, going to take that spot without any real challenge there and move up into the 11th position. So Dodson comes in second in the points, making his way forward. And we want to thank you for following Bad 515011. Thank you for the follow and supporting V-Speed here tonight. We are in stage number 3 of the ROVAL 96, the iRacing Fantasy National Series, presented by Rapid Fired Pizza. As Carl Dodson a little bit loose, he's starting to close in on the top 10. That's Tab Heber up in front of him. The number 1 Fury Chevy Camaro riding right here in that 10th position. As Dodson really closing in through that set of corners. He's now less than half a second behind, and really starting to put the hammer down. He needs those stage points, or the points here at the end of this race as much as anybody, and he hasn't earned stage points yet throughout this race. So, meanwhile, at the front, Dakota Jorgensen still not able to keep up with Chris James, but he has gotten away from Grayson Sullivan, who's got a mirror full of Cole Hooper, the 19, real tight through that corner. As he makes his way back up onto the oval turn 1. A little wiggle there where he's been so strong. Little bit jumpy on the throttle, and he can't be making little mistakes like that, but it looks like Hooper did not get a good run through there. As the top 4 all separated by about 3/4 of a second or more. Really, second through fourth have been as even as possible. Stephen Parks now inside the top 5. A little bit wide through that chicane as he's trying to keep the speed in that race car through the chicane. And Barry Stevens back here in 6th. Evan Longacre, who was in the top 5 at the end of the stage, trying to make his way forward. And he's putting pressure on Barry Stevens, who's run very well here tonight. Charles Hager back here, a little ways back from Austin Getchione, but Tab Hebert starting to close in on him, and Carl Dodson still outside the top 10, but has made his way into 11th. So better run here in this final half of the race. Still 12 laps to go. Any of these drivers can make a mistake, including our leader, Chris James, who's currently 3 seconds ahead of the competition here as he makes his way onto the NASCAR oval. That Emerald Coast Coins Chevy Camaro looking extremely dominant here tonight. And looks like he's on his way to a victory here if he can just keep it going the way he has and be his 2nd victory of the season. Really hot into the chicane there, but I think he's making up a lot of time on his competitors through that section. See, he pulled away about 3 or 4 tenths just through that section alone. And Grayson Sullivan still losing ground to Jorgensen up in front of him. The number 9 really going for it here in this final stage. Wants to get away from his competition and get a nice solid finish here, as he needs the points as well, coming in 10th in the playoffs. We got someone cheering for Barry Stevens, that number 66 machine, who's under pressure, under fire from the rapid-fired machine behind him. It's Evan Longacre in the number 48. He's trying to make his way back up to the top 5 where he ran earlier on. And Longacre comes in on the cut line, but he has had a solid race. And that's really what he needed here. And if he can come out here with a top 10 or maybe a top 5, that would be a lot of added security going into the next race, which will be the cutoff race for this, for the next round of the playoffs. Coming down the back straightaway, he has lost a bit of ground to Barry Stevens. And I want to take a look here at this battle outside the top 10. Looks like Carl Dodson actually losing a couple spots. He lost quite a bit of time at some point here. The number 7 back to 13th position. Other driver in the playoffs not having a great night is Chad Ginnigsman, currently in 17th. He's got a little bit of damage on the left side of that race car, a little bit wide through the chicane. His teammate Aaron Tyner just behind him in 18th position. So not quite the setup that they were looking for here in the Roush Fenway Mustangs, as the 60 really hard into the braking zone here. Able to make that corner, but not as good as he wanted. The other Roush Fenway race car, Jay Queen, he is back on the track after blowing a motor or having engine issues earlier. He is 21 laps down in 26th position and just looking to try and make up a couple points. His next closest competitor, Josh Schofield, 20 laps down in 25th position, but Alan Hunt, 16 laps down, is out of the race. Zach York's currently on pit road, 7 laps down. That won't be enough time for Jay Queen to make up any more positions. He can really only gain 2 spots if he runs out there for the rest of the event. But battle for the top, well, 6th and 7th, almost top 5, as Evan Longacre, really good run out of the chicane. They're going to go side by side onto the front stretch here into the chicane. The 48 really hard in the braking zone. He locks it up, and he's going to miss the corner. That's going to cost him time, as he's going to have to slow down here. The 66 able to drive right on past, and Longacre has to give that spot back as he drops into 7th after putting on a good run there through 3 and 4. It's a little bit too hot. Dalton Williamson going around out of turn 1. The number 2 machine in a very dangerous position as he gets it going once again. Here comes Dodson up to full speed. The number 2 now getting going again, but Dodson's going to take that position away and move into 12th. And Dalton Williamson, a bad mistake there in these closing laps. He's going to drop really just 1 spot to Dodson, but also adds some damage to the race car and could affect the handling here. And we got Rick Webb back here in 16th under pressure from Ginnigsman. And these drivers are both playoff drivers, with Webb coming in the 9th position, and Ginnigsman came in the 3rd position in points tonight. But I think Ginnigsman's going to lose a couple spots with his run here, being outside the top 15 for much of the race. And Rick Webb not really having a stellar performance either. He's doing all right here at 16th, but not exactly a premier race for him, as we've seen him perform pretty well in the last few weeks. And Cole Hooper now starting to close in. It looks like this battle for 2nd and 3rd is starting to heat back up, as Jorgensen has lost quite a bit of time. Grayson Sullivan saving the tires early, let him get away, and number 19 now trying to take over that 2nd position for the first time since the early stage of this race. I think he was up there, but he's now within a couple car lengths. They head into the chicane on the back straightaway. The 19 nice and smooth. The 9 a little bit wide. Grayson Sullivan, nice straight exit off, but the 9 kind of cut through the banking there. Able to stretch that gap back out to about a half second. Down into the last chicane here. 19 a little bit too hard into the corner, but he's able to slow it up. Good job under braking by that driver to stay off of the 9. And They are coming up behind some lap traffic. I think that might be the 90. Oh, that is 13 who lets Jorgensen right on by the 13 into the wall. Good race going on here. 4nd is Chris James completely checked out once again, almost 10 seconds up the road. And just dominating here. He's led every lap so far. And still running about 1.5 seconds faster than anybody else on track. Cole Hooper, 2nd fastest, actually about 7/10 off of the time of your leader. But Evan Longacre, actually a great lap for him as well. He's about 1 second off, but he is in that 6th position after taking it from Barry Stevens in the 66. He drops to 7th position as we are closing in to the end of the race. It's been a good race so far, and we have full course cautions off here, so these guys are getting to run even when there's incidents behind them. As now Barry Stevens starting to lose more ground. Austin Gaccione closing in behind. In that 8th position, he's trying to take 7th from Stevens. They charge into the last chicane here up to the start-finish line. Big gain there for Gaccione. Now they dive into turn 1. The left-hander at 66, a little bit wiggly there on the throttle, and that's going to allow Gaccione to close even more. A good run for the 04. He's up 21 spots from where he started, and very easy on the throttle, you hear. But he's getting closed in on by Charles Hager, that number 10 machine creeping into the picture ever so slowly. Looks like Stephen Parks, Evan Longacre battling for 5th and 6th. Parks has lost a bit of ground here. Longacre, a big undercut through that corner. He gets on the inside. They're side by side. This is for the 5th position. And he takes it away from Stephen Parks, who drops to 6th, and try and regroup here, but up a little farther. Jorgensen still hanging on to 2nd like he has. And Grayson Sullivan starting to lose touch with him, as has been the case through the first 2 stages. The 9 and 19 so evenly matched for the majority of the laps. But this one's a little bit longer, and I think the 19, he saved some stuff and then he used it to get back up to the 9, but as soon as I say that, he closes in about 3/10 there. And he is setting his sights forward on Grayson Sullivan, or on Jorgensen, I should say. You can hear the back end start to slide there on the number 19. So they make their way onto the NASCAR oval. Keep in touch with the 9 is the 19 here, so 3rd and 2nd could be contested late in this race. And we'll have to see who can capture that position. And looking back here, Rick Webb is under pressure from Chad Ginnigsman. 59 and 16 is pretty inseparable through this run, and Aaron Tyner just behind them. He's separated by their teammate Jake Queen, who's back out there trying to capture a couple positions, as he does take one from Alan Hunt. Moves up into the 25th position, but well off the lead lap here, 21 laps down. Cody Jordan, last driver on the lead lap, in 19th position. That car pretty heavily damaged on the nose. And he was running well up inside the top 10, I believe at a couple of points, but just does not have the speed on the longer run, and a few too many mistakes here tonight. He's not going to have a shot here at a top 10, but Carl Dodson, looks like he lost the nose on that race car. Not sure exactly what happened to him, but he's in 12th. And doing a good job holding on to this spot. He's really got no competition anywhere near him. Nathan Zittel up here starting to close in on Tab Hebert. This would be for the 10th and 11th positions. but he is not close enough to make the move just yet. But someone who is close enough to make a move, Charles Hager, right there now on Barry Stevens as they make their way onto the back straightaway. We're at 5 to go, and it's crunch time for these guys if they want to gain any more points, any more positions here. They've got to make their move pretty soon or start approaching as Stephen Parks is losing ground. He's back to the 7th position. He got passed up by Austin Gaccione, and now Barry Stevens right there behind him, and that Netflix Supra. Stevens maintaining his distance, about the same gap back to Charles Hager now. 66, a good run through turn 1. We've seen him struggle on this section of the track, but he's doing a good job, and I think Stephen Parks maybe does not have the long run setup that he needs to maintain the pace that he had earlier in this stage. The 66 big wiggle, here comes the 10 of Hager, peeking to the outside, not gonna make it work that time. As they file down into the corner, now Chris James coming to 3 to go. And he has just dominated. 38 laps led, that's every lap so far. And he's 15, almost 16 seconds ahead. So Chris James here going to be happy with this run. The 33 of Luis Lopez off the pace to the outside. The 20 makes it by, no issues there. Meanwhile, the battle for second has cooled off like we've seen it happen in each of the first 2 stages. Sullivan just cannot keep up with the 9 as the run continues and as the tires burn off, but we'll see if he has anything to mount a final charge here. Capture a few more points before this thing is over. Or capture one more point at least. Charles Hager now on the back bumper once again. Barry Stevens under pressure. And we'll see if any of these guys make a mistake. Evan Longacre back into 9th now as he made his way around Tab Hebert. But the 48 is struggling here in this 3rd stage. He ran very well in the first 2, but he's got quite a bit of damage around that race car now. So he's trying to hold off Tab Hebert, that #1 machine, really putting on a charge here at the end. One of the fastest drivers on the track, actually. That car pretty clean here, just a bit of rear end and a little dent on the right front fender, but doing a good job. And he is all over the back bumper of Longacre as they head down into the backstretch chicane. Oh, the 48 locks it up, going through that chicane. He's gonna have to roll here, and then he's gonna have to give up that spot. See how off the pace he is. Here goes the one right on by Longacre. Gonna lose a couple spots here, and here comes Carl Dodson now. That gap's gonna close between them. It's gonna be a few seconds, but it was 10 seconds as the 10 of Charles Hager now to the outside going into turn 1. This is a big gaggle of cars here at the tail end of the top 10. The 66 wide, the 10 bumps into Hebert, who goes around. He's able to get it back straight, but gonna lose a lot of ground in the meantime as he drops all the way to 11th, and Hager sets his sights once again on Barry Stevens. Was not able to make that pass with the contact. Thank you for the bits there, Dunkin' Donuts Addict. And Barry Stevens now putting pressure on Stephen Parks. This is for the 6th and 7th position. Parks gained a spot back, and Longacre now to 10th position. That car still beat up, and Tab Hebert still in striking distance. White flag in the air. Chris James, almost forgot about him. He's been so fast out there tonight. Just completely out of the picture for any of these drivers to come up here and challenge him. He makes his way through the infield section of the course here at the ROVAL, looking for a victory in playoff race number 2, round number 1. And the 20 of Chris James making his way onto the NASCAR oval. This battle still heating up, coming to the white flag for the tail end of the top 10 as James making his way through NASCAR oval turn 2 onto the backstretch, approaching the final chicane. No mistakes here, and he's clear on his way to a victory tonight. 17.9 seconds ahead of Jorgensen as the 20 swings wide, but it's not going to matter. He's well on the way as Parks under pressure from Barry Stevens. They're side by side into the corner. The 47 cuts him off. And Chris James coming to this start-finish line, coming for the checkered flag tonight. Chris James going to lead every lap and win at the ROVAL. Take the victory in the playoffs here. Congratulations to Chris James, but we're going to focus on this battle back here. Barry Stevens giving up the spot to Charles Hager as they make their way onto the backstretch. This is the battle to watch. The 66 gives them a tap. The 10 into the wall, they hang on to it, but the 10 still trying to recover. The 66 still trying to hang on to it, but the 47 of Parks goes wide. The 10 in striking distance. The 66 gets passed by Nathan Zittel. Here comes Longacre in the final corners. And this is getting crazy. The 10 now, see if he can close in on Parks. Not going to happen. Nathan Zittel right here trying to hold off Barry Stevens, and he will. Evan Longacre trying to make the move, and he will not. These guys finish where they run, and one battle to watch here. A couple more playoff drivers. The 16 and the 59 on the lead lap. This is for position. Ginnigsman to the high side. He's going for a a point here, and this is going to matter. They're both in the playoffs. And side by side through the final set of corners, going down into the chicane. The 59 really dives it in there. The 16 as well. They bump doors almost. The 16 on the inside. The 59 can't make the corner. And Ginnigsman's going to take that spot and take over 16th with that finish. And that's going to pretty much do it for those guys coming to the start-finish line. And finishing tonight's event, Chris James here, tonight's winner. So congratulations one more time to Chris James. Started on the pole. No contest here as the 20. Chris James just absolutely dominant in that race car, and he will be your winner here tonight. As he does his celebration, he will win the ROVAL 96 presented by Rapid Fire Pizza here in the iRacing Fantasy National Series. And we'll be right back with our driver interviews after this quick commercial break. And we are back. We're going to be bringing up our race winner here. Chris James, this is Adam, the V-Speed booth. You have a copy?
Yeah, I got you, Adam.
Well, Chris, you put on a clinic here tonight. Obviously, that Junior Motorsports Camaro was running well for you out here. But maybe you can give us an insight on how you got it done.
Hats off to a Junior Motorsport teammate, Carl. Carl helped me work on the setup, and the rest just put in a little extra practice this week. But the car definitely ran good for us tonight.
Were you struggling with any of the heat out there tonight? You know, you were so far out in front. We barely even took a look at you with all the battles going on throughout the field. But it was very hot on track tonight. Did you find that to be difficult out there?
Early on, I expected the track to be a little cooler than it started at, but it as the night progressed and it got cooler, the setup came in more, so it worked out. But I was just trying to stay consistent.
And consistent you were, and you dominated here tonight. You finished, I believe, over 18 seconds ahead, and you came into tonight's race the leader in the points, and you're going to leave the leader and also locked into round 2. So how much of a weight does that take off your shoulders?
I'm so excited right now. I'm calm. No, I was really looking forward to this race. I'm really happy. Happy for my teammate Dakota in the second place finish. Carl had a little trouble, but he was able to battle his way back a little there from being a lap down. So hats off to all the Junior Motorsports guys, and our fill-in tonight, Jeffrey Meyer, didn't finish too bad himself.
Yes, sir. You all did a great job out there, Carl. We saw him get inside the top 10 temporarily, and or at least battling for a top 10. So it was a good run by all you guys to take the top 2 spots, and also nearly in the top 10. But we head to, let's see where we go next. Looks like Dover is the next track on the schedule. What are your thoughts on going out there?
I am going to have to put more work into that track than I did this one. It's not my wheelhouse. I'll just say that. So.
Yeah, we'll see if you can get it done, especially with all the pressure off. You know, you should be able to go out there and just race for fun.
Absolutely.
See if you can tame Miles the Monster and get another victory. But
that it is.
But before we let you go to celebrate tonight's race, the win here at the ROVAL, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, shout out to my Junior Motorsports teammates. Shout out to the league in general. Awesome. Mr. Jake Shorba, V-Speed for broadcasting. You do an amazing job up there. Now for more Mentos for sponsoring Shorba's iRacing paints. And what am I missing? Oh my God, Rapid Fire Pizza.
Yes,
Can't
sir.
leave them out.
Yep. Well, you put on a clinic here, Chris. You may watch the broadcast, so you didn't get too much screen time, but we did try and focus on you when we could, and you absolutely ran away with it. So definitely a lot to be proud of. So.
Hey, I appreciate it, Adam.
Yep. Go celebrate. Have a good night.
Real deal. You too.
Thank you.
Later.
That was your winner here tonight, Chris James. Absolutely dominant, and Dakota Jorgensen finishing in second. His teammate will bring him up to the booth now. Dakota Jorgensen, this is Adam, the V-Speed booth. Do you have a copy?
I do, Adam. How's it going?
Pretty good. Dakota, you had a great battle going with Grayson Sullivan through the majority of this event, and you were able to hold him off, but what did it take out there to hold on to this second place position and come out of here with a clean car?
I mean, we're pretty even. It was just one of those things where he beats me a little bit in certain areas and I get him back in others. Just kind of was able to get a little jump early and able to hold it.
Yeah, and it seemed like you were a bit better on the tail end of those runs. Maybe he was burning the tires and you were pacing yourself just a little bit better, and the fall off wasn't as extreme. But obviously the Junior Motorsports car is very dominant here. You guys finished 1-2. So how much confidence does that give you going into Dover next week?
Quite a bit, actually. I needed a good run today after Richmond last week to have a chance to move on to the next round of playoffs, and that was really my only goal, was to get solid points today. And I didn't really think second was on the table, but definitely going to take it.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna, I think, bump yourself up into the picture for round number 2. You came in just a little bit outside, but close enough that you were in striking distance, and strike you did with a really good run here tonight. So
Hmm.
congratulations on that. And before we let you go to celebrate tonight's run, anybody want to give a shout out to?
Just my JRM teammates. Chris helped me out a lot this week with, I mean, a little bit with the setup and just pointers on the track and stuff like that. I mean, the Jonathan for having me, picking me. Um, then the sponsors, Shorba's paints, which actually did my paint for this race today. Um, Rapid Fire Pizza, obviously. V Speed, Adam, you do an amazing job up there by yourself.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on the run here tonight. It is a good looking race car as we see it slide across our screen right now. That
Thank
Flash
you.
National Guard. And you definitely looked like Flash out there. Maybe not quite as much as your teammate, but
Yeah, I don't think I had anything for Chris.
yeah, he was pretty dominant here. But you know, you had a great run yourself, and if Chris hadn't been out there, you would have taken this thing by a pretty good margin. So uh, something to be proud of there to put on a great run and come away with second. So go celebrate, and we'll catch up with you next week.
All right, thanks, Adam.
All right, that was second place finisher Dakota Jorgensen. Third place is going to be Grayson Sullivan. Let's see if we can pull him back up into the booth. We talked to him earlier, but Grayson Sullivan, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, Grayson, you couldn't quite catch back up to Dakota at the end. It looked like it started to close there, but you just burn up the tires a little bit too much.
Honestly, I think me and Dakota were just pretty even over the run. At the end of the first and the second stint, you could see I probably had a little bit more speed than him, but just in that last run, the way we were racing, he had a good lap and I had a good lap, and he made a mistake and I made a mistake, and we were racing each other really close. I think we were just so neck and neck that I didn't have enough to pass him, but I'm happy with third. We did good.
Yeah, definitely a great run for you out there, and very few mistakes like some of the other drivers in the playoff field had, or maybe not great finishes. So you get a nice solid third, and hopefully move yourself inside the top 8. But how much confidence does this give you moving forward?
That is a ton of confidence, not just to me, but also this team. Zach York, the 91. He's my teammate, and he just didn't have a good night tonight, but that was a result of bad qualifying. But we're really starting to get some mojo as a team. We're practicing a lot, we're working on the setup. This is the most unique setup that we've built for this series, and I think it had a lot of speed. So going into the playoffs, going into the next round, there's definitely a lot of confidence. But just for the rest of the season, man, a third place to the competition we had out there and the amount of challenges, I'm very happy with that. Very, very grateful.
Yeah, you put on a great run. You held off Cole Hooper, I think, who gave you a few runs there, and you challenged for that second place, and it was a great battle to watch between you guys. So we head to Dover next week. So what are your thoughts on going out there?
I love Dover, man. Both in real life, I love going there and watching races, but even on iRacing, it's such a driver's track. Some people say it's hard to pass on, which it is, but there's so much ability for the driver to make a difference in the lap time and take care of the tires and over the run. It's a really unique racetrack, one of the more unique ones on the schedule. So I'm happy to go race Dover. I think we can get a good finish. I'm sure we can put together a nice setup, get some practice in. But I just love going there. We'll enjoy it.
Yeah, and we'll look forward to seeing if you can follow up this nice podium finish here and see if you get another solid run and keep yourself into round 2 of the playoffs. So before we let you go to celebrate, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, my teammate Zach York, he just didn't have anything to show for it tonight, but we did a lot of practice. He helped me with the setup. Rapid Fire Pizza sponsors this series. They've been here for a couple weeks now. They've been doing great as a sponsor. Then Shorba is iRacing Paints, and Jacob Shorba himself, the man, the owner of this whole thing. He's been doing a great job putting out great paint schemes for people to run, making this series a really good thing. And Alpha Ornamental Metals, which is going to be leaving us at the end of the season, but I'm really grateful to have them as a sponsor. They did really good. And just everybody out there in the field, we had a really good race, and you for putting off, what was that? I'm sure a great broadcast.
Yeah, it was an awesome race, and you guys are what make that possible. So you put on a great show and come away with that nice, solid third place run. So I'll let you go celebrate and catch up with you next week.
Thank you. I'll see you next week, bud.
All right. That was third place finisher Grayson Sullivan, but once again, your winner here tonight, Chris James, started first, led every lap, and nobody could touch him here throughout tonight's event. So he comes home with the win and locking himself into round 2. We're going to run through our entire finishing order here. As you can see him celebrating with his teammate in the background there. That's the top 2 being Junior Motorsports Machines. Finishing first and second, Chris James and Dakota Jorgensen. Third place was Grayson Sullivan with a nice solid run and closing in on Jorgensen at the end, but not quite close enough. Cole Hooper comes home in 4th. Austin Gaccione with a nice solid 5th place run there, just snuck on by up inside the top 5. Charles Hager with speed at the end of that run finishes in 6th position. Nathan Zittel came home in 7th here. Barry Stevens finishing 8th. Evan Longacre gets a solid top 10. And Tab Hebert finishes in that 10th position. Carl Dodson recovers after being a lap down. He finishes in 11th here. Very good run for him. Fast race car tonight. Dalton Williamson finishes 12th. Tyler White finishes 13th. Jeffrey Meyer 14th. And Chad Ginningsman is showing as 15th. So pretty good run for him here tonight as well. Rick Webb, another playoff driver, going to finish in 16th. Aaron Tyner 17th. Stephen Parks must have had an issue there at the end of that race, but he finishes 18th and last car on the lead lap. Cody Jordan finishes in 19th, and James Dowen rounds out the top 20 here. So great run by all of those drivers, and we see Luis Lopez finishing 21st, Hilton Young 22nd, Zach York 23rd, Joshua Schofield 24th, Jake Queen, a playoff driver here with a rough race. He's going to finish 25th. Alan Hunt finishes 26th. Jarrett Small finishing 27th, and the last driver to take the field tonight was Jake Sylvia in that 28th position. Every other driver here did not take the grid and start tonight. So tonight's winner, Chris James, wins the ROVAL 96, the second race of the playoffs here in round number 1 for the iRacing Fantasy National Series. So congratulations to him tonight, and we're going to be back here tomorrow night. But before we leave for the evening, we want to give a shout out to Shorba's iRacing Paints for sponsoring tonight's race, along with Rapid Fired Pizza, who I'm sure you've seen in the commercials and we've mentioned in the chat. So Shorba's iRacing Paints, you can head over to Facebook and contact Jacob and get your own professionally made affordable paint scheme for your race car. So head on over there, give those guys a shout, get a good looking race car out of it. And tonight has been a presentation here on V-Speed. My name's Adam Baker, and we were live tonight on Twitch. We're going to be posting this replay along with all our other race replays up about a week after it's gone live here over on YouTube, V-Speed Broadcasting. You can also check us out on Facebook, where we announce each and every race before we broadcast it. You can also check us out on Instagram as well as Twitter, where we make special announcements and race announcements throughout the week. So check us out over there. One final thing here. If you liked the racing tonight, you can get your own iRacing Fantasy National Series merchandise. If you head over to vspeedsim.com/shop, you can use the code FANTASY5 to save $5, and a portion of the sale of either the hat or t-shirt you see on your screen will go straight back into the league here. So you get to support these guys, support V-Speed, and another way you can support V-Speed is by subscribing here or following. We appreciate everyone who followed here tonight and continues to support us. And subscriptions, I believe, are still half price until the end of the month. So if you're thinking about subscribing that way, you get your own custom emotes to make you a premier fan here at the V-Speed Broadcasting Network. And we really appreciate everybody who gave bits tonight as well. And we appreciate you for tuning in. Great race here at the ROVAL. And we look forward to coming back here tomorrow night with the iRacing Fantasy Cup Series. It's going to be a little longer race. I believe it's 55 laps versus the 42 we had tonight. And should be another great show with the top level drivers here in the iRacing Fantasy Series. So tune in tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and you'll see more road racing action in the Cup cars. And until then, everybody stay safe and have a good night.